commotion. Go! Let's go, and show what good friends we can be.
Let's give it a try, come on!
Let's go, and we'll start a commotion. Set friendship in motion.
Set friendship in motion. Set friendship in motion.
The engines on the island of Sodor were finding life difficult. There had been an increase in passenger traffic on the main line. News of Thomas traveling around the world had spread quickly, and now more and more people wanted to visit the railway. No sooner had one train arrived than another had to go out again with more passengers. Goods also arrived night and day at the harbors and goods yards. The engines sometimes worked so hard that their axles ached. One evening, the engines at Tidmouth Sheds had talked about the situation.
No one can say that we're afraid of hard work, but
we draw the line at goods trains.
With all these passengers, I'm starting to feel rushed off me wheels.
Much as I'd hate to say it, but at this point, I'd rather pull goods trains and go to work on some of the branch lines instead. My last train today was almost overloaded.
This wouldn't have happened if Edward hadn't moved out of the sheds to live at Wellsworth with Boko.
But that's only because Wellsworth is closer to his work pulling trains up and down his branch line. You wouldn't understand that since you think branch lines are vulgar, Gordon.
But they are, since they have little demons working on them.
The engines complained bitterly all night long until they went to sleep at last. The next day, Sir Topham Hatt came to see the engines.
I understand that the workload recently has been putting a strain on you all, so I've decided to bring in a new engine from the mainland to help out with the workload. I want you all to make this new engine feel welcome, as she's coming to stay with you here at Tidmouth Sheds. And she'll be helping Gordon with the express along with several goods trains.
Gordon was surprised.
But sir, I'm the only engine capable of pulling the express. This new engine will only get in the way and will easily lose her way of the express. I'm sorry, Gordon, but it's too late to make changes. This new engine will be arriving tomorrow, and there's nothing I can do to change that. You'll just have to put up with it, I'm afraid.
Poor Gordon wasn't happy at all. He thought he was the only engine suitable for pulling the express, and that there were no other engines for the job but him. Of course, other engines like James and Henry would pull the train too, but only at times when Gordon was either ill or busy somewhere else. Later, it was nearing the end of a busy day, and Thomas and the other engines were at Knapford Station when they heard an unfamiliar whistle.
Whose whistle is that, Thomas? I don't know, Percy, but it looks like another engine coming this way toward us.
It was a big tender engine coming in fast. Slowing down! I'm slowing down! The new engine screeched into view and came to a stop just outside the station. Sir Topham Hatt came out of his office looking quite surprised.
Hello, what's this? I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow. Henry, Percy, Thomas, Emily. This is Rebecca.
Hello, welcome. Hi there.
hello there.
Hi, everyone.
Just then, Gordon chuffed into view.
Oh, you must be the new engine. Just don't get too used to the express, 'cause you might not pull it for long. Gordon, she'll make sure that there is no confusion and delay. The express is a very important train, and you ought to know that by now. Yes, sir. Now then, will you show Rebecca to the sheds, please, Henry?
Yes, sir. Come along, Rebecca. You'll need your rest for a busy day tomorrow.
Right away, Henry.
Rebecca was quickly making new friends with Thomas and the other engines. but Gordon and James were left unimpressed by the new engine's arrival. Next day, Rebecca pulled a local train as a test so that she could familiarize herself with the main line at a slow pace. Unfortunately, she had a problem with her brakes. They felt very stiff, and the handbrake made them feel as if they were on, but they weren't. As a result, she would often overrun the stations with no way for the passengers to come in or out of the coaches. Rebecca thought she would be able to adapt to her brakes in due time, but it wouldn't be as easy as she thought. Later, Gordon and James were at Tidmouth Sheds discussing Rebecca.
Did you see her screeching past the stations?
Just pathetic. You never see a fine, strong engine like me making careless mistakes like that. What would Sir Topham Hatt say if this happened?
Things were much better here before she arrived and stole Edward's spot.
Rebecca backed up to the two engines talking about her. This made her cross.
I may have a problem with my brakes, but at least I did my best with my trains. I'm sure Sir Topham Hatt would be pleased.
Stuff and nonsense.
With all this overrunning of the stations, you're not making that much of a good impression. You're not cut out to be an express engine whatsoever. I'm the only engine capable of pulling the train, and you won't see me making silly mistakes like that.
Before Rebecca could say anything else, Gordon puffed away to collect his train just as Henry pulled out of the shed.
What's the matter, Rebecca?
It's Gordon. He thinks I'm not making a good impression for Sir Topham Hatt, and that I'm not cut out to be an express engine.
Never mind, Gordon. I'm sure he'll warm up to you as time goes on. It can take time for him to get used to changes. He probably thinks that no engine should pull the express but him.
I'll show Gordon just what I can do then.
Careful now. You're still new here, and you don't want to get into any trouble.
But Rebecca was already heading into trouble. The station master at Knapford had asked Rebecca to take a goods train to Vicarstown. Emily was meant to pull it, but she had been held up by a faulty signal. Rebecca never dealt with trucks before. The Troublesome Trucks saw a chance for trouble when they saw Rebecca couple up to them.
Let's give this banana the time of her life. She'll have so much fun, she'll never forget it.
Rebecca didn't hear the Troublesome Trucks as she pulled out of the station yards. She was soon running very fast on the main line, and her wheels pounded the rails.
I'll show Gordon. I'll show Gordon.
She roared past Percy, and sped past James. Soon she approached Gordon's Hill. It was a steep climb. This was where the trucks decided to start their plan. Rebecca's driver began to put on the brakes as soon as they reached the top, but it was too late.
On! On! On!
Oh no! Stop! Stop! Stop!
Troublesome Trucks started pushing Rebecca down the hill and were rattling and laughing behind her.
Rebecca's pulling us along, Rebecca's pulling us along, Rebecca's pulling us along, up and down the line.
Oh help!
Rebecca's driver tried and tried again to apply the brakes, but Rebecca was still going too fast.
Oh no!
Luckily, no one was hurt, but Rebecca was off the rails. Hero brought Rocky to get the mess cleaned up. He also brought Sir Topham Hatt.
I'm very disappointed in you, Rebecca. You're my newest engine and you're already causing confusion and delay. I was very pleased with your work yesterday and told some of my workers about it, but now look what's happened. You'll have to go to the steamworks to be repaired.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Poor Rebecca was sad. She didn't think she was a useful engine anymore, and she thought that she would never be able to pull the express. Worst of all, she felt as though she had let the entire railway down. Later, Sir Topham Hatt was having troubles of his own. Rebecca's accident had put him in an awkward predicament.
With Rebecca out of work, I'll need to trial 2 other engines and see if they'll be of extra help on the railway. There are only 2 diesels available, and I know for certain that one of them is bound to be trouble.
Next day, the 2 diesels had arrived at Nafford Station and began to survey the atmosphere.
It's time, 7101, that we took this railway over.
I want none of that 199. It's their railway after all.
Not for long. You know full well that steam engines spoil our image.
Of course we do. We show what frauds you are. Call yourselves engines. If anything happens, you care nothing for your train or the passengers. You just moan for a fare. We bring it home, if anything, on 1 cylinder.
Nothing ever happens to us. We are reliable.
The engines were furious as vulgar noises greeted this.
How rude.
He asked for it.
Rebecca had been in the steamworks for several days. Victor and the workmen were still waiting on parts for her so that she could get back to work. She still felt as though she had let the entire railway down.
I'll just rust away and be forgotten. I'm a failed engine.
Cheer up, my friend. Sir Topham Hatt wants you back to work as quickly as possible. A happy engine is a useful engine. The parts arrived for Rebecca and she was soon back to work again. She still felt glum as she chuffed along to Tidmouth Sheds. Along the way, she'd reached a signal box and saw 199 on the opposite line with a train of tankers.
Now it seems that this old reliable diesel will laugh at me over this whole mess I've made.
Just then, the signalman came out. For pity's sake, take this spam can away. It's failed. The express from Vicarstown is behind and all he does is wait for his fitter.
Spam can?
Stow it, or I'll take my tin opener to you. Now then. The diesel just subsided at this dreadful threat and Rebecca pulled the train out of the way. The diesel didn't help at all. All he did was sulk. The other diesel rushed by with the express with a growl and a roar.
Look here, that must be your little friend.
The diesel said nothing. He had hoped 7101 hadn't noticed. Unfortunately, 7101 was having troubles of his own. His coaches seemed to be getting heavier and heavier. He roared at them, but it was no use. Engines have a pump called an ejector which draws air out of the train's brake pipes to keep the brakes off. If it fails, air leaks and the brakes come on, gently at first, but then getting harder and harder. 7101's ejector had failed. His brakes were already leaking when he had passed Rebecca and the diesel. He struggled on for half a mile before being brought to a standstill, growling furiously, unable to turn his wheels at all. Rebecca's crew soon heard the news.
Well, 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 have you heard the latest from the signalman? I thought they'd be laughing at me, but now the joke's on them. Moving 2 diesels with their trains, that's no joke for a failed engine. Do you think you can do it? I'll have a good try. I've heard that this other diesel is better than old Reliable over here, but we'd better hurry. The passengers can't be kept waiting. Get moving, you!
Ugh. Rebecca gently pulled up to the express. Everyone worked fast to couple the 2 trains up.
This is better than we had thought. 7101 can pull if we keep the brakes off, so the only weight we'll have is this spam can's goods. That's a mercy.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So, with 7101 growling at the front and Rebecca puffing in the middle, the cavalcade set out for Knapford Station. Gordon and James were waiting at the station. They were surprised to see Rebecca pulling off an incredible rescue like this. The passengers swarmed out like angry bees, but Sir Topham Hatt told them about Rebecca, and they soon forgot to be cross. They thanked Rebecca and called her an enterprising engine, and then took her photograph.
I'm sorry that we had doubted you at first.
Now we can see how much of a really useful, enterprising engine you really are.
Rebecca beamed proudly. Hero arrived to take Spam Can away.
Return him to the other railway. I shall not be inviting him back, and I'll write my views later.
I'm sorry about yesterday.
That's all right. That diesel was nothing but trouble anyway.
But I've made a fool of myself too, with my failed ejector on top of my growling.
Oh, you couldn't help that. If anything, it makes you growl like a bear.
A bear, you say? Well, in that case...
When 7101 was finally mended at the diesel works, he decided to stick with the name Bear. Nowadays, he usually handles mixed traffic on the main line. Even though he still growls like a bear, it's a name he had decided to stick with.
Having a name means that you really belong, and it's much nicer than having a number.
Now Gordon and Rebecca both pull express trains together from time to time. Rebecca sometimes still does goods work like Henry and James, but often she and Gordon would whistle hello to each other as they passed by. And Rebecca could think of nowhere she would rather live than here with her new friends on the island of Sodor.